It's typically recommended to get life insurance once you have dependents or a spouse or if anybody relies on you financially, but I have none of those things, and I recently bought a $500,000 term life insurance policy, and in this video I want to explain a few reasons why I chose to do so. For context, there are two primary forms of life insurance. There's term life insurance and there's permanent or whole life insurance. And in general, term is a lot more affordable and a lot more flexible, and permanent is a lot more expensive. And this is a quick graphic that just kind of breaks down some of the differences between the two, but the main difference is that with term life insurance, if you don't die within the policy's time frame, your beneficiaries don't receive any benefits. With permanent or whole life insurance, generally as long as you keep paying the monthly premiums, you're going to have coverage. And depending on the policy, you may be able to build up cash value within that policy. And that's getting a little bit into the weeds, but in that situation, insurance would act more as a form of an investment and not just a kind of insurance. And really, in my situation, all I was going for was the most basic protection that you can get. But going back to affordability, term is a lot more affordable, and this graphic shows the difference between a term policy and a permanent policy for a 30-year-old male with $500,000 in coverage. And you can see it's almost a $6,000 difference. So for my situation, term was the obvious option. And when you're young and when you're healthy, your rates are as low as they're ever going to be, because as you get older, your chances of dying go up. So your policies are going to get more expensive. In my situation, I locked in a rate of $24.21 for the length of the policy. And this is a chart that shows the average annual cost for a $500,000 20-year term policy for different age groups. Your actual rate's going to depend on a lot of different things like your health and any pre-existing conditions, but if you're able to lock in a lower rate when you're young, if anything happens to you in the future, like if you were to get diagnosed with something, you wouldn't have to worry about the cost of life insurance going up because you already locked in your policy beforehand when you were still healthy. And if you have goals to start a family and you know you're going to have dependents and people relying on you financially in the future, like just knowing that you can lock in a lower rate, that can be a big enough reason in itself. And the nice thing with term insurance is that in a worst case scenario, if you weren't able to pay the monthly premiums, all that'll likely happen is that you lose the coverage and you lose the money of the premiums that you've already paid on it. And according to Ladder's policy, which is who I got my policy through, this is not a sponsored video, I'm not affiliated with them anyway, but it says that you may cancel your policy whenever you want to for any reason, no questions asked. There are no cancellation fees or penalties if you choose to cancel your policy. But depending on who you use, there may be some small fees associated with cancellation, but nothing compared to the cost of canceling a whole life policy, which can be anywhere from 5 to 10% of the face value. And by far the biggest reason I got life insurance was because I want to provide for my family if something were to happen to me. Like, I'm in the process of building a few businesses, and if I can't accomplish what I've set out to do because I die, like, I still want my family taken care of. Like, they're not relying on me day to day to take care of their money and get through life. But I hope to eventually someday be able to retire most of my family with the businesses that I'm building. So if that's not able to happen, like, I still want to be able to help them in some way, and a term life insurance policy was a very affordable way to do that. And from a different perspective, funeral costs and end-of-life expenses aren't cheap, and I just think it's really sad, like, to see people have to put together a GoFundMe to be able to afford a funeral or do anything like that. So if I can spend $5,000 over the course of 20 years and make sure that my family's covered, and if anything happens to me, that everything's going to be okay, like, that's beyond worth it to me. But overall, I think life insurance can make sense in a lot of different situations, and general rules of thumb don't apply to everyone. Like, it's typically recommended to only get life insurance once you have dependents or if someone relies on you financially. I don't have either one of those, and I still think it makes perfect financial sense. But whatever you do, if you're working with an insurance salesperson, make sure you fully understand all the costs and everything that's going into that life insurance policy before you sign or pay for anything.